Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Magenta Lounge. I am your host and friend, Bryan Groleau of Medi USA. I have been a lymphedema therapist for a long time, and I'm sure you can relate to the fact that when you started out, you had to kind of figure things out on your own. Some of us had mentors. I know I did, and those mentors were so helpful, and I'm grateful for them. But nonetheless, I have found that talking to so many different people in the field, everyone's got such good information to add. And I would like to bring that to the table. So I'm going to try to bring some experts to the table, some fellow colleagues, maybe some research. Who knows? Sky's the limit. I just want to bring some information to us. Now, I also want you to realize two things. One, this is a podcast brought to you by Medi. It is very likely that we're going to talk about products. Now, let's just say it out loud. Our patients need products to manage their lymphedema for the rest of their life. We need those products. So I think it's good to talk about those products. It's not going to be the main focus, but it is going to be brought up. The other thing I want you to realize is you're going to hear from a lot of different people. And they have lots of good recommendations, lots of good tricks and tips. But I want you to remember to take everything with a grain of salt, right? Do your own research, do your own background checks, or whatever it is you need to do to feel comfortable. No one here is telling you to change a protocol or anything like that. It's simply the professional opinions of those that we respect. So with that, I'm so happy to be here and can't wait to bring you this great information. So I am so excited to introduce our first ever guest to the Magenta Lounge. Today's guest is a very special individual who has left quite a footprint in the world of lymphedema. And I would say one of the forefathers of bringing lymphedema therapy, CDT, to this country. I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I'm here with Steve Norton. And Steve Norton, many know who he is. He has trained a lot of people in lymphedema therapy. And I would say if you're a trained lymphedema therapist out there, chances are you're a Norton trained therapist. The Norton School of Lymphatic Therapy started in 2004. So let's see, that makes a long time. So above and beyond the School of Lymphatic Treatment, Steve has presented all over the place, all over the country, all over the world, has been involved in many lymphedema organizations and has not stopped. Again, this is someone that's really influenced our world, and I'm so appreciative of the work that he started and continues to do. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Steve.
Thank you, Bryan. It's an honor to be here. Appreciate it.
Well, it's a pleasure having you. Like I said, you have certainly done a lot in your lifetime with lymphedema. And how old were you when you started lymphedema?
Started
It's kind of a personal question, but
started when I was 31, and that was the year my first daughter was born. So that was a really special chapter in my life.
That's something. Wow, you were juggling life and professional work.
Exactly.
So CDT, did I get that right? Or do you prefer CDP?
CDT.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
From the start? From always?
Yes. I mean, that was what I was oriented around. It was always taught to me that CDP was a German term that didn't translate quite as seamlessly to the U.S. clinician population, similar to physiotherapists or physical therapists around the world. Most PTs are called physiotherapists, but of course we don't in the U.S.
I do see that word in Europe quite a bit, and that's what everyone refers to as PT. It's like a physio.
Yeah, so they're considered equivalent, but certainly a more ubiquitous name to use.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So I would like to know a little bit about you, and I think some of our viewers would too. Sort of how you got into lymphedema. I mean, everyone has their story. I have mine. I could tell it, but I think people want to know, how in the world did you get started in this journey to begin?
Yeah, I get asked that frequently when I'm with students. And so I hear myself saying things like serendipity, that it was really just what I was supposed to do, and I was in the right place at the right time. I was taking a body work workshop. I had already been a massage therapist for a number of years and was in a pre-med curriculum at Rutgers University, and wasn't sure where I was going to land, but I knew that sciences and manual therapy was my direction. And the hand went up, and I went over and worked with a fellow who needed a partner. And he told me about a clinic that had just opened that was modeling a therapy coming from Germany. It was the first clinic in the United States that was doing that kind of work, and they were hiring a small staff. And I went and interviewed, and was told I would be trained and hired. And then they said, I'm sorry, but we have enough people. We thought we could take you. We're going to have to put you in a holding pattern for future training. And then somebody dropped out at the last minute. And so I got my opportunity. And at that time, I realized I was working with Dr. Robert Lerner, who was an exceedingly well-regarded retired surgeon who had a conscience about creating lymphedema himself over 4 decades of surgery, spoke German, was trained in Switzerland, and knew these people called the Foldies in Germany, who had started a method that we now regard as the gold standard, complete decongestive therapy. He asked them if they would allow him to import the method to the US, and they gave him their blessing. And so from there, I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
So CBT initiated with the Foldy thing.
Yes.
The clinic, which I'm sure you've been to the Foldy clinic
Many times. Turns.
Foldy transferred it to Lerner, who transferred it to you, basically.
I suppose so. I don't believe there was a transfer as much as information and a reverence for not changing anything. So this has always been at the core of my professional practice, is that I haven't invented anything just by opening a school. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the people who synthesized the system, and that would be Doctors Michael and Ethel Foldy in Germany. So I feel close. I feel close to the founders. I feel certainly close to the birth of it here in the United States.
Yeah.
And my mission over the last 30 years is just to propagate the method in as pure a form as possible.
Sure. I mean, that's really amazing. Like I said, to be that close to the foundation of all of this. Yeah. And I would say you spend a lot of energy, time, and commitment to that same fundamental that you learned all that time ago. Has anything changed about your curriculum in those years?
Certainly, things have changed over the years in terms of the science around lymphedema treatment and lymphology, but I see the role of the Norton School, and certainly of my own propagating the information, as not adding until something is validated by enough science to feel I'm doing that responsibly. There are lasers and, ultrasound devices and measurement devices and emerging surgeries that are being done. And until such time as they've really proven themselves to perhaps augment or replace the system of CDT, I don't teach about them.
Yes.
I expect people to know about them, but there's nothing that's been added to those two interlocking circles that the foldies develop that represent intensive clinical phase and then a lifelong maintenance or home care optimization phase. So that's, yeah.
I love the command to that. That's important. Of all the, I mean, like I said, it's many years since I've been doing this, and many years that you've been doing this, the commitment to those fundamentals is crucial to what we do, and the consistency and the continuity across the board. And all these students that are coming through your program, learning the same techniques across the board. That offers good continuity in our profession. I think that's pretty huge.
Yeah, and globally, CDT is the gold standard, and it wouldn't be the gold standard agreed upon internationally by the leading lymphologists and researchers in the world if it hadn't proven itself, quantifiably. So the treatment outcomes are unrivaled by any single modality, like maybe a pneumatic compression pump or a single surgery. Or certainly any medication that exists. And so, as a synthesis of 4, or here in the United States, 5 moving parts: manual lymph drainage, exercise, compression, skincare, and self-care, there's no reason to add or subtract from that system. It's as close to perfect as this disease condition requires. Do we wish that life could be easier? I do think it will be in the future as surgeries and medications and early intervention become more common. But they also still need to prove themselves, especially in these emerging surgeries.
Yeah. Today's episode of the Magenta Lounge is brought to you by the Norton Hand Solution. This product is hot off the press from Medi USA and is quickly gaining the confidence of clinicians for the treatment of dorsal hand swelling. Never in the history of compression has there been anything like this. This new innovation features a perfect balance of a firm molded hand shell with a palm and dorsum foam that tighten together with adjustable reels, providing a very structured support against the edema while relieving pressure on the sides of the hand. Learn more at mediusa.com or email customer service at mediusa.com to connect with a Medi representative. So can we talk a little bit about today's atmosphere in the lymphedema CDT community? Have you seen changes in your time from when you started to now? Like, have you seen any differences to CDT? Maybe for the better, maybe for not the better. What do you see out there?
Well, I think the healthcare systems dictate so much how a well-trained clinician can actually practice once they leave the classroom. And so the more or less supportive the climate and the environment for that therapy to take place, the better off that therapist is. And so I think, unfortunately, the trend here in the United States, as such a capitalist society, is to profit. And CDT is time intensive and perhaps not the most profitable physical therapy or occupational therapy modality to bill for. But at the same time, we've created cancer patients who now survive longer. We're winning this battle against cancer. And so people who otherwise would have perished are now around with this other condition. And it's become, I think, part of the ethos of hospitals like Memorial Sloan Kettering and MD Anderson to not only treat the cancer, but also to clean up some of the comorbidities of cancer therapy, whether or not it's profitable or not. Yeah.
So out of all the things, conferences you've been to, traveling that you've done, years of teaching, years of conversing with other colleagues, what's what's one thing that what's one piece of advice that you would give to every lymphedema therapist out there? Like something that you stay committed to, something that shouldn't change, something that we should all be looking at, maybe that we aren't.
It's a difficult one. I think if you're going to practice this method, you need to have a reverence for why the Foldies used words like intensive. A semi-intensive, abbreviated, is not the system. And so if you're trained in this method and you let the world know that you're trained appropriately, then practice appropriately. And don't let the pressures around you water down the intensity of the methods, because they've proven themselves in the literature. Countless hundreds of thousands, if not more, patients have been successfully treated, but only because the therapy wasn't watered down and changed.
Yeah.
So,
And when you say pressures, you mean like administrative
pressures, yeah. So,
so that's changed a lot, I would say, through the years, even since I started.
yeah, absolutely. So I think it's become a constant battle to make a case for why this system really can't be changed or shouldn't be changed. And if it is changed, shouldn't be called CDT anymore. And so at the same time, it's counterbalanced by the fact that there's a sense of responsibility to take care of our cancer patient population. And so I think there's a sort of a tug of war that's happening between administration and those who would advocate for their cancer patients.
What is the goal? What is the Norton goal? What is your goal?
My goal has always been to resist the pressures to change the basics, the nuts and bolts of CDT in some way. I don't assume that anyone has the foundational knowledge to build on right out of the gate, right out of, say, PT school or OT school. And we know that to be a fact. So until such time as we've trained everyone who desires to be trained, I'll continue to do the good work that we're doing here. But I would say my goal would be to take English-speaking CDT courses to other English-speaking countries, because it's not being done. There's no other school that's crossing borders in a big way, and at the same time keeping the system really pure. And so I find that to be a unique opportunity and challenge. Even the Foley School in Germany teach only in German. So unless you're in a German-speaking culture, you may not have access to such a high-quality resource like the Foley method, the Foley clinic, Foley school. So I see an opportunity there. And every population suffers cancer. Every population suffers primary lymphedema. Primary lymphedema has been in the genetic record probably since the beginning of time. We know conditions like lymphedema have been shown in hieroglyphs in Egypt 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. So this problem is a problem for humanity. And this method has not been rivaled since it was created almost 40 years ago. And so I don't see a reason to change the mission of the Norton School.
Do you speak German?
A little bit. A tiny bit.
That's cool.
So tiny that you can't ask me
So when you go to the Foldy,
to say any.
and do you understand what they're saying? Do you understand more than you can speak, or is it just
I think so. Yeah.
he's trying? Yeah, that's cool.
Develop an ear for it, but
Yeah, I'm starting a little bit. I mean, whatever that means. No, but it's cool. Well, very good. I would actually like to switch gears a little bit. I appreciate all the information, backstory. It's always good to kind of know where you started, holding strong on the fundamentals, and continuing on forward with the Norton School and the outreach beyond US. I think that's incredible. But you've also started something else.
Right.
Norton Compression Solutions. Can you give us a little information on what that is? Medi USA is happy to partner with Steve Norton in bringing a whole new approach to nighttime compression. Check out the new Norton Hand Solution and how it offers firm compression to the dorsum of the hand while relieving pressure on the sides of the hand. This new product is so easy for a patient to use and offers a highly effective solution for patients at home. Steve, tell us about Norton Compression Solutions. How did you, what made you start something different? Like, what is it all about?
Well, I couldn't help myself over the many years of treating patients to not explore, and at least conceptually, ways to make their life easier. And when I first started, there were no alternatives to bandaging being offered to patients. So they were, in all cases, expected to self-wrap. And we know, I think we can all agree as CLTs, that oftentimes it's not done skillfully or correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And they can have a fairly high liability for injuring themselves or perhaps not adhering to a daily regimen of self-care because they just cannot get the result that the clinician could get for them, yet they're living with lymphedema for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So ideas percolated over the years, and I had concepts that I could not pursue because I was too busy doing other things, training therapists and treating patients.
Sure. Yeah.
But at some point, I was able to carve out the time to bring one of my concepts to market.
Nice. I think we're about to talk about that concept too, but I always kind of was like, treating patients, teaching them how to self-bandage. Like, I mean, I just went to, OT school, PT school, OTAs, whatever profession you are, like, and then I took a class in complete decongestive therapy. And I spent all that time learning the bandage. And then I treated a bunch of patients, got really good at bandaging. But then I treat the patient and then teach them how to bandage. It's like, well, they didn't have all that training that I just did.
Right.
And so I definitely feel like it's a lot on a patient or a caregiver. Like that's not the profession they chose, yet here we are. So I think innovative products can be more than just for the edema, for the disease. Simplicity is a huge
Quality of life.
bingo.
Yeah.
Quality of life to me is, well, to everybody. That's what everyone wants, right? You've got to live with a disease or a syndrome or something. How do you live with it? And how do you have the highest quality of life with it? So great. Let's talk a little bit more about the state-of-the-art project that you have recently released, the Norton Hand Solution.
Well, let me give you sort of an overview. I decided to tackle what I think is probably the most difficult part of the body with an alternative method to bandaging. And not because I was overly confident or had some ego about that. I just thought to myself, gosh, I see these women with hand swelling suffering so much emotionally, and they really aren't taking care of it with skill. They're hurting themselves. Their quality of life is suffering. And maybe if I really focus on this problem, I can come up with a solution. Hence, Norton Compression Solutions. I want to solve problems and not do it in a sort of a mom and pop approach. I wanted to bring technology, deeper thought, take my time, make a real investment in doing something that is head and shoulders more thoughtful than some of the solutions that are currently out there. And so the Norton Hand Solution, if I were to reference it right here, Um, essentially, what it offers is a stiff shell that counteracts the forces that would pull the bones in your hand against each other and
Right.
create discomfort. And so, when we are trained as lymphedema therapists, we talk about this law of Laplace and the fact that
Yeah.
small radii get more pressure than large radii. And if you were to analyze the cross section of a hand, it's an oval.
Okay.
Small radii are going to get a lot more pressure, and the bones between our fingers or across the hand are going to get squeezed together when we would rather have a press on top of the hand and the bottom. And I figured that the only way to counteract that problem was to use a stiff shell of very particular flex and design to splint the hand wide open. And then if you look more closely on the base, there's what I call the leaf spring. And so as the cables pull on the side, this piece actually counteracts the cupping force of the hand and opens it up from the underside.
That's cool.
So it's like a leaf spring, and it pulls the hand open.
Got a nice contour to it.
And it also exerts pressure right over the knuckles, which is one of the most difficult areas for us to evacuate edema fluid.
I'd say.
And if you were to strip out this padding on the inside, you would find that there's a buildup of padding in this area to really fill the void and to augment the pressure even more there. The other thing that this product does is you can see there are two reels. And if you were to trace this cable, you would find that it comes between fingers, then through another set of fingers, and then around the side. So this area at the knuckles is its own zone of pressure. And so I can now control this distal zone and this proximal zone that addresses the rest of the hand. It comes around the side, comes around the thenar aspect of the thumb, comes up over the wrist, and does the same on the other side. And now I've got the ability to really tailor a gradient on the hand where a single fabric layer simply can't do that. A single fabric layer essentially is a second skin in the shape of the hand, but it's not able to bear down or relax itself to create a gradient. We create a gradient with a bandage by building the bandage up here, having less structure here, more structure here. But again, very difficult for a patient to recreate in home care. So this is a very innovative approach, but it's also proven itself to work quite well. I'm getting extremely good feedback from patients that I've trialed it on over the last several years.
Yeah, we've had some good feedback as well. You're speaking my language here, because bandaging the hand has been one of the most difficult things. And like you said, it's one of the hardest areas to bandage. I mean, I can think of a couple different body parts that are more difficult to bandage, but in this sense, what I mean by difficult is like difficult to be effective. Because as soon as I wrap the hand, right, I'm wrapping it, putting all this pressure, like you're saying, but I'm wrapping it flat. And as soon as I make a fist, the whole entire shape of my hand that I just bandaged is now changed. And what I've noticed about the Norton Hand Solution is it stays right there.
Exactly.
And it keeps that consistent compression across the back of the hand. To me, that's a big deal. That solves a huge problem for me in all my days of therapy. And knowing how much trouble I have with that, and then trying to toss that over to the patient, self-bandaging, all that stuff, knowing that they can go into this. You've put the work into the compression part of it and the innovation part of it, but also the simplicity part of it. Patient just put it on and turn the knob a few times,
right,
and they're good.
Exactly.
Safe, all that stuff.
Exactly.
So that's pretty awesome. The law of Laplace. I mean, I know we've all spent time learning what that is. Having that pressure relief on the sides of the hand, that's quite a big deal.
Yeah, I'm quite confident that the patient's not going to injure themselves wearing this. So that's really been at the heart of my motivation to sort of press forward with this idea, because I do I do feel that it's a very safe device. It's almost impossible to hurt yourself. Sure, you can make those two different circuits too tight, but you can also relax them immediately with one click. So you shouldn't wake up in the middle of the night. And that's the other thing that I would add here, is that it's really meant for nighttime self-care, self-maintenance. But maybe you adopt a rainy day mentality. Maybe since you're hanging around the house, you're not going out, why not give your hand more therapy in this instead of transitioning into an elastic glove? I always teach that compression bandaging is therapy, and garments tend to be more cosmetic and less therapeutic. But it's that balance that creates the lifestyle that we're all seeking. We want to have that single skin and look sleek and lean, but unfortunately, lymphedema is very unforgiving. It wants to come back during the day, and we need to reset with a bandage or some inelastic compression device.
You said you wanted to leave yourself a little time to develop this. When you say time, how much time are we talking?
From concept to the release of this a month ago, 15 years.
Wow. That's quite a while.
It's quite a while, yeah.
That's pretty cool. Must be all good to finally see it out there.
My life.
Yeah, me too. I was going to ask you about, like, what patients is this appropriate for? Like, I think my mind goes to those difficult patients that have that swelling that's persistent. But I mean, who is it appropriate for, and who would you use it for?
Yeah, I think that it's reasonable to have that image of the patient that's difficult to treat as being the candidate for this. But I would honestly like to correct the impression and state that this is not for the worst of the worst cases, the most stubborn cases. This is just meant to safely, quickly substitute for a self-applied bandage for any hand that needs to be maintained with bandage. Yes, it looks like an apparatus that is, foreign as compared to a bandage, but it's so effective, quick, and easy, and you're so unlikely to hurt yourself. So there are going to be situations where many upper extremity patients have hand sparing and they need to wrap their arm, but they still need to wrap their hand as a counter pressure so it doesn't become involved. They could put this on with very light tension and just stabilize their hand so that it never does swell. And there'll be people who graduate the intensive phase with ongoing need to maintain a swollen hand. And of course, they're a perfect fit for a device like this.
Yeah.
And then I can foresee some clinicians saying, even in the clinic, there are times when this might just be a better solution than the current bandage because I can't quite get my patient comfortable with bandaging. They're hypersensitive to multiple layers of bandage. So I see it fitting in a few different camps of patients.
Yeah.
Certainly not just for the worst.
No, I think that's just kind of a knee-jerk reaction that we have. I know when I've introduced other products from Medi to people, and I think a lot of just the knee-jerk reaction is to, well, my patient doesn't need that. I'll wait till the most severe patient, worst of the worst, come along. But that's not at all. I mean, it's great for those patients too, but it certainly doesn't have to wait for that. So I think it's good that you just educated me on the fact that, yeah, you have stage 1 lymphedema, you need to nighttime wrap. This is appropriate for that patient too.
Great.
So it's good to keep it in mind from that perspective.
The other thing I would add, and this is something that I teach, is that when we do compression therapy, we're not squeezing fluid out of a swollen limb. We're progressively confining the space that swelling occupies as we allow the fluid to move with prior treatment of MLD, right? So we're allowing the pressure to be released in a congested area of the body and then watching that limb or that hand get smaller and just sort of chasing the fluid out rather than aggressively squeezing the fluid out. So as the hand wants to improve, we're confining the space that swelling can occupy. And that type of a mindset of progressive confinement rather than squeezing or high pressure environment creates the mindset for a very safe bandage. You're just not going to injure a person, not going to have an unhappy, uncomfortable person, because you're essentially telling the swelling to behave itself. It's not allowed to occupy this space any longer. The space has been confined, and you're stabilizing the hand as well. There's a huge element of stabilization that all patients need. And if they wrap successfully one night and not the next, then there's no stabilization because they're on a sort of a yo-yo program.
Yeah. I think a lot of people might be curious to know, well, with the nighttime product, I think it's important to mention that, yeah, this is a maintenance tool for self-care management, basically after the intensive phase of therapy. Great at-home product to use. Now, obviously, it covers the hand, but it can be paired with different arm nighttime compression, like the profile, circuit profile. Of course, we make different variations of the profile. We could do a C to G, which starts at the wrist and goes all the way up the arm. We even now make a C1 to G, which means if you want the circuit glove to come up, then we have a product that can align and meet it there. So you don't have too much overlap in the wrist. You could do it with a graduate. You could do it with a juxtafit.
Right.
So it's very versatile in the way that it can be paired with really a lot of different options for nighttime.
Yeah. No, I'm glad that you mentioned that because this padding liner can be pulled out. It's Velcroed in. And I could then slide this shell over top of any other solution that, say, Medi offers currently, could easily be mated with those. There's also a liner, glove liner that comes with the device, and it's short stretch circade fabric and essentially fills in some of the pressure gaps that may exist around the knuckles, but also gives each finger compartment short stretch bandaging, because some might look at this device and say, well, what about the fingers? And so now we have the fingers inside of this device, and it also sort of indexes it in place so that it's not able to move around, sort of positions it precisely each time so the patient's going to get it right every time they put it on.
So just for those that are listening in and they're not viewing in and they're just kind of listening, we have a Norton Hand Solution product on the table, and Steve has actually put the Circade glove on. It's an inelastic glove. Go ahead and throw on the shell, the Norton Hand Solution shell. Again, not that you're going to see this if you're listening by audio, but open it up.
And I like to sort of massage it into place so that I feel the functionality is there, and I know it's seated in my web spaces.
It looks like you're doing like what you would do if you were bandaging someone. You kind of squeeze the bandage just to kind of feel for pressure, and then you adjust it.
And as the patient gets more used to wearing it on a daily basis, they're going to have it down to a science.
I wish I just timed you. It took you like seconds.
Right. They'll have it in position and probably within 15 seconds, and then they can always release with one click, make a fist, and you feel the pressure release, and you can start over again if you didn't feel it was precise enough. Or if in the middle of the night you say, I'd like a little bit less pressure, click, click, make a fist, and then just dial in a new amount of pressure.
Yeah.
So once again, I don't think of it as a squeezing device. It's really just supporting with a very unforgiving, rigid containment, which is what lymphedema needs, and stabilizing the hand regardless of how involved it is.
I think it's great. Like I said, we've gotten a lot of good feedback on it already. We've placed a lot of orders for it. I showed it last week at a conference, and people were walking by the booth. You know, it catches the eye. You know, you see something that you haven't seen with two knobs, and as soon as you put it in someone's hands, or at least a clinician's hands, they know what to do with it. They're very intuitive. Oh my gosh. And it's like these light bulbs go off and they automatically go to a patient that they're thinking of, that they're treating, that this would be good for. So we're very excited about it. I'm thrilled about it because I think it's going to solve a lot of issues out there.
Yeah, and my hope is that the fact that it came, from me, that there's a little bit of confidence that, I haven't just been a teacher, I've been a clinician, I've been in the trenches, I've treated, I understand that problem, and my heart is into what I do. And so for what it's worth, I think that people who understand the integrity of the Norton School and of my career would just feel a little bit more confident that there probably is something to it.
Yeah. I second that for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, you've got to be thrilled. I mean, like you said, 15 years.
That's very gratifying to see it. And the most gratifying thing is to hear the feedback from the patients and therapists.
Yeah. Oh, I know. We at Medi are very excited to be working with you on this.
Great.
It just rounds out what we do and what we offer. We manufacture compression for lymphedema, wound care, and vein disease. And when you get products that are innovative, that solve a problem, what more could you want? So I think clinicians are going to really appreciate that. Today's Magenta Lounge episode is brought to you by the Norton Hand Solution. Who is the Norton Hand Solution for? Well, any patient needing self-bandaging following the intensive phase of therapy. Also, think about all those hands you've had out there with dorsal swelling that just won't quit. You do all the right things, but still that swelling persists. For these patients and more, the Norton Hand Solution is perfect. For questions or wanting to connect to a Medi representative, email customer service at mediusa.com. All right. Well, Steve, it's been great having you here.
Thanks for
hearing about what you've done through the years. I just want to say thank you for all the work you've done, for the education you've provided for all of us, what you're continuing to do across the globe. All of it's got a major footprint, and I think it's wonderful that you're still going strong. Can't wait to see more of what Norton Compression Solutions has to offer.
Great.
And again, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.